This mission, I can't believe they want us to go to a place where they worship. We need better informants. Well, you don't have to worry about him anymore because he's dead. But look, they attacked the Nines with a purpose. What if they found it? Whatever. You point, I shoot.
Welcome back to Shadows of Primus and the continuing narrative in our Dominion campaign. As the Crimson Fane went deep in the Underhive searching for something, we know that something didn't exist. The Nines were set up by false information given to the Renegades. Enforcer informants now lead the Vanguard to a Crimson Fane place of worship. Before we get started today, I do want to give a shout out to the guys over at Skirmish Mats. I am not sponsored by them, but I want to give them a shout out. This is their 36 by 36 industrial zone mat, and they were kind enough to send it to me. We've got it set up as 7 tiles today. If you want to support a company making great products for our games, visit skirmish-mats.com, and I'll put a link in the description. They have offered 10% off for my channel with the code MiniatureGameMontage. Thanks so much for watching, guys. And with a quick look at the campaign table, there's quite a bit of disparity between these two. The Corpse Grinder cult are at the top of the table. They did really well in their first game, packing on a lot of credits. This did allow them to add an extra ganger to their list. The Vanguard Enforcers were deadlocked with the Renegades of House Orlok, and they are sitting towards the bottom right now at 0-1. The Vanguard Enforcers did make it out of the last battle with the Renegades unscathed. There are no roster changes as they attempt to bank some credits. They depart today with 6 fighters, gang rating of 990, and a wealth of 1040. The Crimson Fane has added another skinner, Diablo. He comes in with paired heavy chain cleavers, an armored undersuit, and stem slug stash. The Crimson Fane will depart today with 8 fighters and a gang rating and total wealth of 1225. Today we are fighting over the Needleways, which gives a special boon of allowing infiltrate to 3 fighters. This is of particular interest to the Crimson Fane as it would allow them to close gaps before the battle begins and get infiltrate on their gangers that normally do not have that skill. The scenario we're playing is Forgotten Riches. It's set for 7 Zone Mortalis tiles, and both sides may have a crew size of 7. Unfortunately for the Enforcers, they only have 6 members in their crew. There will be 3 tactics cards selected for the Crimson Fane and 5 for the Enforcers due to the difference in starting crews. The Corpse Grinders have selected their variety of Blood Surge, Blackout, and Seize the Initiative. The Enforcers have also selected Seize the Initiative, Lucky Shot, Informant, Excellent Reconnaissance, and Appropriate Force. For the scenario, the winner of a roll-off will place a loot casket on the central tile, noted with the church. Players will then take turns placing 4 more loot caskets in other tiles that do not contain one. They must be at least 6 inches apart. Once all caskets have been set up, the winner of a roll-off will select one of the tiles that does not contain a loot casket, and this will be their territory. The crew must set up within 3 inches of the edge of the map in that tile. The other gang will pick the other unoccupied tile and do the same. The objective of this game is for both gangs to get away with as much as they can carry and prevent their enemies from doing the same. Each gang will score 1 point for each enemy fighter that goes out of action. 2 points are scored for each loot casket secured, not including ammo caches. To score, they need to get the loot back to their tile within 3 inches. There is a special rule in place called Horrors in the Dark. If a fighter is activated and they are not within 8 inches of any other fighters from either side, we'll roll a d6 and some interesting things may happen. The battle ends if one gang has no fighters left on the board at the end of any round. Victory goes to the gang that secures more loot caskets than the other. The stage is set and we are ready for turn 1. And as we prepare for turn 1, the initiates have infiltrated. The Enforcers will play 2 tactics cards, one being Excellent Reconnaissance, allowing them to infiltrate a fighter, the next being Informant, allowing them to relocate one of the Corpse Grinders' starting crew, and they have done that. Turn 1 priority rolls coming out now, and the priority goes over to the Corpse Grinders. Slipknot is going to pick up this loot casket, and he is going to use both actions to move, taking that loot casket with him and getting behind cover. Cue Ball activates for the Enforcers, and he will use both actions to move to the top of the stairs to give Overwatch. Back over to the Crimson Fane, and we've got Bonejaw. He is going to take his loot casket, use both of his actions to move, and then we will flip back over to the Enforcers. And we've got a group activation to help speed things up a little bit. Rampage is going to move to the door and use his second action to open it. This is going to allow Lockdown to use both of his actions to move through, heading up the stairs. And then Solidus, who did the group action, he will use both of his actions to move forward, getting behind cover. Now we have our first Horrors in the Dark roll coming up for Marrow as he picks up the loot cache. A 4 or a 5 means he can only take one action. So we originally moved him 2, and then remember he had to test for this since no friend or foe is within 8 inches. So we do move him back with just one simple move. Over for the Vanguard, Wax will activate, use both of his actions to move up, and then back to the Crimson Fane. Gormal uses his first action to move. He's going to pick up that loot casket and use his second action to pull that back quickly to his deployment zone. Back to the Enforcers, we've got Hawk, who is up in this tower. He's got his hands on a loot cache, but will need to roll for Horrors in the Dark, and he is too busy fighting off a creature. He will not be able to activate this turn. Next up, the Butcher of Widows uses both of his activations to move straight up the middle, heading towards the church. Skullshank activates right behind him, moving to the door and opening it just in case they need this in the future. And then the remaining activation goes over to the Crimson Fane as well. The Skinner Gorgon activates and uses both of his actions to move up, taking a better position behind cover. And that is going to bring us to the end of turn 1, so fighters moving up the board. Initiates certainly having an advantage in this game as they were able to infiltrate, immediately get their hands on the loot caches, and started retreating to their deployment zone. So the Enforcers will have to push the offensive if they want to keep up with this battle. Let's move over to turn 2, priority rolls coming up next. And turn 2 priority rolls coming out now. The Crimson Fane with a 4, both with a 4, so it's going over to the Enforcers. And we are going to see a shot from Cue Ball. He first has to take a Horrors of the Dark test. This means he only gets to take one action, so his action will be to fire his grenade launcher, and it will be in the template mode. And he does have an open sight to the line on the ground, so he will need a straight 4 to connect. He easily hits on this 6. And does it knock back Marrow? It will, needing a 3, and then also testing for the Butcher, needing a 4. It will not knock him back. Both these fighters going down pinned. So now rolling wounds onto Marrow. It will do a wound, but this is a blast weapon. He's got on an Initiate's Mask as well as flak armor. He's easily going to make this save on a 6. And then we roll to wound on the Butcher, and it's strength 3, toughness 4, so needing 5s here. There's no wound on the Butcher. And while those explosions are going off, Slipknot is going to use this opportunity to move twice, carrying his loot cache, and again, getting behind cover, taking that closer and closer back to his board edge, now crossing the midway point. And now we're going to move back over to the Vanguard Enforcers, where Lockdown, he's going to use his first action to move up the stairs. This will bring him into a firing position against Slipknot, and he will target him with his Enforcer bolt gun. He is getting a +1 within 12 inches, but it is heavy cover, so he will need 5s. His base hit is a 4, and that shot is going to miss. And back to the Crimson Fane. Bonejaw is going to carry this loot cache over the obstacles, moving twice, taking that loot cache with him. And we then flip back over to the Vanguard Enforcers, where Wax is going to use his first action to move up the board. He is then going to target Slipknot with his Enforcer bolt gun. This is going to be a similar shot the last time. I believe he has him within 12 inches. However, he is in full cover, so it will need 5s. That shot is going to miss Slipknot. An ammo check needs to be taken, needing a 4, and that is going to fail. His Enforcer bolt gun is out of ammo. We then flip back over to Gormaw, who is going to move up to the doorway here, preparing to open it on the next turn. And now we test for Horrors in the Dark on Hawk, and he rolls up a 4. So that means that he will get one action this turn on a 4 or a 5. And his one action will be to move down the ladder, and he will take that loot cache with him. The Crimson Fane then activates Gorgon. He uses both of his actions to move, getting behind full cover. We then flip back over to the Enforcers, where the Captain Solidus, he is going to use both of his actions to move, trying to apply pressure up the middle and prevent those loot caches from going any further in case they can win priority on the next turn. Back to the Crimson Fane, Marrow is going to get to his feet with his first action and use his second action to move behind cover. And then going back to the Enforcers, we've got Rampage, who is going to activate, use both of his actions to move, also getting behind cover. The Corpse Grinders have the remaining activations, and the Butcher will use his first action to get to his feet. His second is to move behind cover, applying pressure in the middle, hoping to win priority next turn to get a charge off. And then we accidentally move Skullshank here without testing for Horrors in the Dark, so we go back and fix that. And on this 2, a Nightmarish creature emerges, and he is busy fighting that off, so he will not get any actions this turn. And turn 2 comes to a close. There are no checks that need to be made, and we will get ready for turn 3. We've got a lot about to take place in the middle. Both players playing Seize the Initiative. So we are going to have a roll-off and see who takes the priority, which is going to be very important for turn 3. Now we roll off and tie on this third priority roll for Seize the Initiative, so we do re-roll. I did miss that. The Corpse Grinders end up with the initiative, and we do have a charge coming off from the Butcher of Widows as he targets Captain Solidus. And it's a charge where he cannot fail, and this does not trigger Got Your 6 because he never comes into the visibility of Solidus, so technically getting into the side/back here, but what this will trigger is the skill Threat Response from Rampage. So because he ended that charge within 6 inches, Rampage will take Threat Response, and he will charge into the back of the Butcher of Widows. Now we have a lot about to take place here as the Enforcers also play the Tactics card Appropriate Force, giving them one additional, completely separate attack. And first, we are going to have to check his willpower, as the mask that the Butcher is wearing is terrifying, and he is going to need a 6 in order to pass this check, which he does. So 1 base attack, 1 for the charge, and 1 for dual melee weapons as he is attacking with the Shock Baton and his shield. The Shock Baton is in black, and he will need 3s to hit with interference. The shield will not knock him back, but that Shock Baton is a 6, and that will cause shock, so that's an auto wound. The shield does not cause a wound. However, this Shock Baton, with it being a 6, does auto wound. He will take an armor save, and he is wearing plate mail as well as an armored undersuit. He is going to fail, so that will take him down a wound. So the Butcher is down to 1 wound. We will now roll for Appropriate Force, which is a separate attack, and this will come out with the Shock Baton, and it is again a 6, which is an auto wound. So the Shock special roll really coming into play here. Another armor save will be taken, and with Appropriate Force, this is a 2 damage attack. The armor save is failed. This will take him down to 0 wounds, and 2 injury dice are going to be rolled out right here. And we are going to roll the first one, and it is a flesh wound. And then we roll up the second, and it is also a flesh wound. Now we go to the Butcher. There will be no reaction attacks here because he would have to turn to face and have interference, so he is going to stay on Solidus on his main target, and he is going to lash out with his paired Butcher's Chain Cleavers. Normally hitting on 2, but interference makes it a 3. Several of these are going to go through, and they are paired, so he has got a base of 4. He gets +1 for dual melee weapons and +1 for the charge. He causes a lot of wounds on 3s, and then that sends Solidus down hard. So we roll on the lasting injury table for Solidus, and the first one is a 1, which is going to be an okay thing. The next one is a 5. It looks like he is just going to be knocked unconscious. A 6-up cool check from Rampage is good. That will spread over to Wax. Even though we roll this, that technically would not count. So a big miss from the Vanguard Enforcers here. They had an opportunity to take down the Butcher of Widows, had good positioning, but the roll of the dice just could not get it done. Very unfortunate. We are now going to go back over to them for their next turn. Wax activates for the Enforcers and wants to make a name for himself, passes a willpower check easily against the Butcher of Widows, points his stub gun, he aims first, anything but one, and that's exactly what he rolls. So going to play the Lucky Shot Tactics card here, roll that back out. He will get a hit this time, has to take an ammo check, needing a 4, and he fails. Both weapons are now out of ammo. Now rolling to wound, the Butcher is at a lower toughness, so this is going to wound, but the armor save is made, so nothing happening. Marrow can smell blood in the water, lets out a charge that he can't fail, getting into Rampage, taking the shortest path, and it is just outside. It's actually so close we roll for it and decide that he is not within the front arc. And he has a bone sword and his auto pistol, that auto pistol in yellow. And he needs 3s here with assistance, but the parry rule says you've got to re-roll a successful hit. So that boning sword, having to re-roll that back out, and he will get a hit. And he will need 4s in order to cause a wound. That will not go through. And Rampage is going to turn to face here and attempt to get both of these guys in his front arc, which he will successfully do. And reaction attacks coming back across, needing 6s due to the turn to face and interference. Both of these are going to miss. The Enforcers activate Hawk next. He has to test for Horrors in the Dark, and on this 3, he gets no actions, too busy fighting off the creature. Slipknot then uses this opportunity to use both actions to move, carrying that loot cache with him and getting out of visibility of the Vanguard. Cue-Ball then activates, tests for Horrors in the Dark, and he is the first one. So the creature emerges, hits him with a Strength 6 hit. It's easily going to wound. It's AP -1 and 2 damage. He will take an armor save here. This creature, we played it as it has no facing. The armor save is obviously going to fail on this too. And then we are going to roll out 2 injury dice as he goes down to 0 wounds. That serious injury means that the creature has dragged him off into the darkness, and we will roll for him on the injury table as he is out of action. Lucky for him, the first one is a 2, the next one is a 5. It will be out cold. Next up, we move back to the Corpse Grinders. Gorgon activates, has to roll for Horrors in the Dark, and the creature has now moved over to him. He will not get any actions this turn as well. And then back to the Enforcers. We've got Lockdown, who's going to activate, targeting the Butcher, easily going to pass a willpower check, and he's going to shoot with his stub gun, getting that +2 short range modifier. And he is going to aim first to cancel out the engagement. That shot will go through, and he's operating on a toughness of 2, so easily going to wound. The save roll will fail. An injury die will be rolled out here for the Butcher, and it is going to be another flesh wound. He is on 1 more remaining. And back to the Corpse Grinders, we've got Bonejaw, who is working his way around the back of the map with his loot casket, getting closer to the deployment zone. And then we've got Skullshank, who is going to use both of his actions to move, able to actually activate now that Bonejaw was within range. And then here we have Gormaw, who is going to open the door and move through, getting behind full cover with that rotary flensing saw. And the end of turn 3 comes to a close, and while the Enforcers desperately want to get the Butcher of Widows down, and they could more than likely take him out of this game, they have elected to voluntarily flee the battlefield as they have sustained enough injuries and they have gotten lucky enough to where those injuries have not been that bad. They are going to go ahead and pull out as the dice rolls have just not been in their favor. So we are going to roll for priority on the next turn, and it will go over to the Corpse Grinders. We are going to roll for Rampage as he is currently engaged. He is going to take an initiative check and fail, so the dice just continue to go wrong. He goes down seriously injured, but thankfully does not succumb to those injuries. They are able to make it off the board. No fighters are captured, and this game will come to a close with a Corpse Grinder victory. And we've got the post-game report coming right up. Sorry, Enforcers. I think they had a plan this time. The dice just did not allow it to come into play. And my. I'm not sure what can be said about this one. First off, both of these gangs are mine in this campaign. My son rolled up for the Enforcers today as he just doesn't like the Corpse Grinders, and I can't remember seeing a time where he was this frustrated. He consistently passed willpower checks to attack the Butcher, which is a feat in itself, but he got really unlucky on some of the injury rolls and potentially should have used his lucky shot card to re-roll one of those. That's all hindsight, however. He also had a subjugator get dragged into the dark, he had issues activating his sniper, things just really didn't go his way. He actually wanted to continue just to get the Butcher down, and his plan was to use Magnicals to lock him in place and then beat him to death, but by that time the game was just out of reach. It's hard sometimes to take a game like that on the chin, but it's also a good teaching moment. Today's lesson was to stay the heck away from these guys. With the Corpse Grinders winning the battle, they will improve to 2-0, and the Enforcers will fall to 0-2. The Crimson Fane will take control of the Needleways, giving them additional infiltrate options. They will earn 240 credits for the loot caskets and +3 rep. Both gangs will walk away with XP. The man of the match has to go to the Butcher as he took down the Enforcer captain, although I thought about giving it to the Creature from the Abyss. That wraps up Week 2 of the campaign, and the story will continue. We'll have to see what Week 3 brings. I would like to give a quick shout out to the 2021 coffee supporters so far. You'll be in my videos moving forward, and if you would like more information on that, there'll be a link in the description. I hope you enjoyed this video despite the way it turned out, and if you would like sneak peeks of upcoming content, you can follow me on Instagram. I will see you in the next one, and as always, thank you so much for watching.